Good evening, everyone.
Good
Today is April 3rd, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. and this is the Acushnet Planning Board. This meeting is being recorded for future viewing on the YouTube channel. I think we're on via cable. We're also on Zoom tonight. Can I get a motion to open the planning board meeting?
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can everybody introduce themselves?
Victoria Alfaro, Town Planner.
Peter Guyampa, member. Steve Boucher, member.
Mark Francois, Chairman.
Rick Ellis, Vice Chairman.
Okay. Meeting minutes of March 20th. Did everybody get a chance to look those over? So we had a full quorum, so everybody was here that day.
I did not have any particular.
Yeah, I read them over too. I didn't see any issues.
And make a motion to accept the minutes of March 20th meeting.
I got a motion. Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit out of order, just for the members of the public that came here. We're gonna put the public hearing first, so the public doesn't have to sit through everything else. Public hearing, site plan review and special permit, 211 Middle Road, map 23, lot 29, 29A, 29B. Applicant Rewild Renewables LLC, represented by Bales and Thomas, Inc. Scope of work is proposed 6 megawatt solar photovoltaic development. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Zachary Farkas, Rewild Renewables. With me, Greg Sampson and Dan Feeney, lawyer and engineer for the project. We are the Middle Road project, not the Park Drive project, just to be clear. To reorient everyone, we're talking about the 53 acre parcel off Middle Road on the west side of town of Acushnet, bordered on the west by residences off Rhonda Drive and the Care One facility in New Bedford, and to the south by Acushnet residents off Mary Drive. To the east is the business commercial district on the same property that houses the White family dairy operations and 2 or 3 other commercial operations. J&R Plastics, Rauju Plumbing, and Quality Oil. I won't go into much more detail. I think this project's been introduced to this board, and obviously there's been a lot of peer review comments. So just bringing everyone up to speed on what's happened in the public venue. In the summer of 2024, I was in front of the Conservation Commission and received an ORAD from that group, which defined the wetland lines. After the definition of the wetland lines per Wetlands Protection Act, we started our entitlement work with Planning Board for the site plan review and special permit, as well as with Conservation Commission on their notice of intent. Both hearings were opened. We started with our technical review committee meeting with Acushnet staff in August. We had our pre-submission conference in front of this board in September. Both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board has visited the site on formal site walks, and both public hearings have been open. The public hearing for this project was open in early December of 2024. Things were obviously slow with the holidays, and ultimately we've spent the time between then and now working with peer reviewer GAF Engineering, Bill Madden, as our point of contact over there. We got our first peer review letter in November, to which we responded. We got a second peer review letter that further refined some of the comments in February, to which we replied in March. And then we actually received a third peer review letter at about 2 p.m. this afternoon. So I've had a little bit of time to flip through it. Obviously haven't gone through it in detail. I imagine that's the same for the board. But assuming you guys have been kind of following along with the back and forth, Within those peer review comments, Bill and his team have broken their review down into 6 categories. We'll call them zoning, site plan review, stormwater, notice of intent, Board of Health, and general. The intent was to combine all 3 of the boards within Acushnet that have jurisdiction through the same peer review to just help keep everyone on the same page, make sure the plan set revisions stayed together. So in the time that we've been working with Bill, we have completed all the commentary around the site plan review, around the notice of intent, and around the Board of Health, which leaves just a few items open that I'll kind of summarize very quickly. In kind of under the zoning heading, there is a question about the applicability or the application of the new bylaw in Acushnet for solar projects. This project being the first, and looking at your agenda, maybe the only project that comes under this iteration of the solar bylaw in Acushnet. So there are a couple interpretation questions that we went back and forth on. Attorney Greg Sampson put together a memo that, from our perspective, explains things pretty clearly. There's also some discussion around decommissioning plans, costs, and bond amounts. We've gone through 3 iterations of this. Rewild used their template, revised their template again, and Bill was still uncomfortable with the number, so we hired a third-party firm to come in and do a full decommissioning estimate. I tried to work with SW Cole, who this board in this town has worked with in the past. They're no longer doing it. SW Cole made a recommendation for us, a group out of Easton, and so they completed their third-party decommissioning estimate, and I provided it to this board as supplementary to the second peer review response letter. So that's still open. It doesn't look like, based on me flipping through Bill's latest peer review letter, that he's got it yet, but just recognizing that that's still open. Not a huge detail for me. I'm just kind of looking for direction from the board or from Bill on what number he'd like to put in there. And then finally, there were a couple technical questions on equipment, specifically our racking. Bill really wants some more detail about exactly what the racking structures and foundations associated with the racking are going to look like. So not big questions. Under the general heading, we're having some conversations about construction sequencing and clarifications, call-outs on the plan, whatnot. So very, very kind of technical items just to make sure that there's no gray area. Eventually, when this project moves from kind of development phase, we're now in construction phase. The last heading is stormwater. Probably received the most focus from Bill. A lot of energy from us and from Bill going over stormwater assumptions, calculations, etc. And so we're getting there. There's almost all the items are closed. Again, flipping through this afternoon's letter showed me we made some really material progress forward. There's a couple other items that need to get cleaned up that are kind of above my pay grade with respect to stormwater modeling, but we're getting closer. If you have any questions, we can talk through them a little bit tonight. But ultimately, we recognize from that very first technical review committee meeting the importance of making sure the stormwater assumptions are sound and that the features that we put in will achieve what we're trying to get to in terms of stormwater control. We know that there was a problem, obviously not developed by us, but within the town where a site was opened up, had some freezing weather and then some rain, it really caused some problems. So just wanting to be doubly sure to remind this board that project, that problem project, had nothing to do with Rewild or any of our affiliates. Some of the assumptions that were made weren't great, and that site was materially different than ours. That was a fully treed site with a lot of grading. Ours is an open field with very little grading. So it doesn't reduce the importance of stormwater controls and making sure we have everything buttoned up, but at the same time, I just want to make sure the board's clear that from our perspective, those are apples and oranges type sites. So that's where we are now. My hope is to wrap things up with Bill over the next week or two and then be in front of this board to close the hearing. I believe the next meeting is April 17th, but that may be a little bit too ambitious to get here, but we're what feels like rounding that final post to the home stretch here. And I know it's been a lot of time, but we're really trying to put our best foot forward with the best engineering we can and really going through the details with Bill and his team. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to take any questions from the board or certainly from the public.
We'll start with the board first, and then once the board's done all their questions, then I'll turn to the public for any questions that you might have, and Zoom as well. We just got the report, I got it 15 minutes ago, so I haven't had a chance to go through it at all.
Yep.
I don't know if you're prepared to kind of highlight to the board some of the changes that were made, or some of the recommendations that GAF recommended and that you have changed. I don't know if you're prepared to go over that with us, to kind of give us a little bit of clarity on the changes that have been done. That's up to you. I don't know if you're ready or not, because again, I know you just got this earlier today as well.
Yeah, I mean, the changes are actually pretty simple. Visually, not much has changed from the project. The project still is focused on the field, right? We've got the 55 acre property, 30 acre field, about 19 of that is within the fence. Everything we're talking about with Bill materially is within that fence. Ring road, stormwater control basins, modules, equipment pads, etc. So a lot of what we're doing with Bill has been kind of tweaking and massaging some of the details within the fence. There have been no material changes to the fence perimeter, the module count, the system size, etc. So from kind of a, not even a 30,000 foot view, but a 5,000 foot view, nothing visually has changed on the plans. There's been a lot of changes to the stormwater modeling, to some of the assumptions that went in, ultimately making the assumptions that go into the model as conservative as we possibly can. And with that comes some minor tweaks. As I mentioned, some details have been added to the plan in terms of the racking system specifying ground screws and not driven I-beams. The purpose being we don't want people to hear pile driving tamping for the construction period of it, so we made it very clear that will be ground screws used for the foundation of the racking. And a few other items here and there, but as I said, nothing materially different on this plan set than from the initial plan set.
Gentlemen, any questions?
I take it that you've gone to the Corps of Engineers for a portion of the review of this project? Yes, no, maybe?
Jurisdictional body for wetlands in Massachusetts is obviously the Conservation Commission. We're not doing any impact to any wetlands or wetland areas that reaches any type of Army Corps jurisdiction.
Okay, I mean, I did notice a couple of bridges in there.
No,
No, I'm in the wrong one?
You're in the wrong one. You're on this one.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
sorry.
No problem.
That's a valid question, but
Yeah,
in about 20 minutes.
Yep, no. We did the ORAD with Acushnet.
Okay, yeah, no, this one's
setbacks
not
are the ORAD.
No bridges on this one.
Not yet.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, the board, I think most of the board was at the site. We did walk the site. It is an open field. It is, I mean, there is no clear cutting on this property. One of the things that this board really concentrates on is impact to the neighbors and the visual aspect of what the neighbors see, and it's gonna impact them as least as possible. I will eventually go over, not tonight, but before our next meeting, go over the berm that you have and the screening that you have for that. What is that, the west side or north side?
South side and the
Is
west
that the
side.
south side where the,
South side's under it. You were just pointing at as the west side.
this is the west side where all the houses are at,
And then
right?
by your, kind of toward you, is the south side that we also have the berm for
Yep.
the residents off Mary Drive.
Yeah,
So it's
and that
almost-
berm is how high?
It's an L shape.
I believe it's a 6-foot-high berm with
Is
a
it?
10-foot-high fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna, I mean, we had discussed the type of fencing. We don't want a solid fence because then the wind will just knock it down. So when we were out at the site, there was different discussions on the type of fence, maybe even the type where, we don't want chain link because obviously you can see through it.
Yeah.
But, maybe something where you get the staggered to allow the wind to go through so it doesn't become a big sail.
Yeah.
I don't technically think you can put, did he say 10 feet? I don't think you can put a 10-foot fence. I think it can only be 8, and then you have to have, I'm not exactly sure.
I think we actually have a 6-foot fence bylaw in town, I believe, anyway. So that would require something different, but I wouldn't recommend the 10-foot fence at all, because the wind load coming across. So
Yeah, we've got.
we've already got 6 feet of berm.
Yeah.
You know, and how high are these panels gonna be?
Off the ground.
Off the ground.
Off the ground, the panels are oriented in 2 rows, so 2 high in portrait. So you imagine 2 pieces of paper like this.
Yep.
They'll be tilted at a 25-degree angle, so the way the calculus works is about 9.5 to 10 feet off the ground. So what we're trying to do is really provide a kind of a foolproof buffer. The design for that berm and fence is copied from a previous project that I did a few years back in Rochester. So I believe during the site walk, we encouraged you guys off Mendel Road in Rochester, Roundsville Road and Mendel Road, right at the intersection. We built a solar project in 2017, and that employs the berm with the fence. There's no 150-ish foot setback that we have here. It's right on the shoulder of the road. So just so you guys could get a contact, right, a visual of what this thing's actually going to be like, I'd advise you guys to take a drive over there and check it out. I can send the information so you guys don't need to
Please,
write.
yeah.
You said Mendel Road and what?
Mendel, at the corner of Mendel Road and,
Round Hill.
I just said it.
Round Hill.
Roundsville Road. Thank you. On the Plum property over there. So I just want the board to hear that, number one, like this isn't something we're making up out of nowhere. And then number two, Bill did ask us to bring in our structural engineer to put together a preliminary structural design to prove that it won't be a sale, or show the design specs to make sure that this thing will be structurally sound. So we'll have a preliminary design memo from our structural engineer. Obviously, the structural type stuff happens at building permit. But we want to provide that to the board just to show you guys. And I was unaware of the 6-foot fencing limit. We'll take a look at the bylaw and we'll double check that whatever we're putting up there meets the bylaw. Obviously, solar projects use 8-foot fences all over the place, so
Yeah.
there's probably some.
I'm pretty sure we can't go to 10, but it might be
Yeah.
8.
If it would be, we compensate with the berm going up and the fence coming down, but we'll take a look at that. Thank you for the heads up. But we agree also, we recognize the minute we stepped on this property that the site, you know, the glaring challenge for us was to find a way to limit visual impact to neighbors. And so we've spent obviously a lot of time speccing out this design. We provided you guys with visual sightline plans in the most recent, maybe one revision ago of the plan set to show what it's gonna look like, not only bird's eye, but from the horizontal view. And like I said, we're copying a plan that has worked, and worked very well for a past project. There's no structural issues we've had with that one. Very, very similar application. But we recognize the importance.
So if I understood you correctly, it's double stacked, it's gonna be, top of panel, it's gonna be roughly 9.5 feet off the ground?
About that, the back edge, about 3 feet off the ground on the leading edge, about 9.5 to 10 feet on the back edge.
The glare that's gonna come off these panels, is this why you're looking at a 10-foot high fence?
No, visual only. We've provided a glare study as required by the bylaw, as well as a sound study. We've located our equipment pads and any noise-making pieces of equipment far enough away from any property lines that you're not going to have any impact. But obviously, the fence, berm, the sight lines is primary, but it'll accomplish the same task. But there's no failures to sensitive receptors in either the glare study or the sound study.
Yeah, the houses on the south side are all like a 1 level, where on the west side there, some of them are 2 levels. So I think the glare, because the panels face south, correct?
Correct.
I think the glare is more impactful on the south side, but
Yeah, I definitely
That's what-
encourage you guys to take a look at the glare report, glare memo, glare study. It was part of our original application package.
no, I mean, you got the road that goes all, you got the access road that goes all the way around. You have the chain link security fence. You have the berm with the. Now, are there going to be? Excuse me, because I didn't look through all of these. But is there going to be any kind of plantings, trees, arborvitaes, anything in front of the berm with the fence?
We're looking for direction from the board and the public. I think I mentioned at the first meeting that we reached out twice to all neighbors, above and beyond the typical notice of a public hearing, introducing ourselves and trying to get some feedback. We heard back from 4 or 5 people after those letters. We heard back from 2 or 3 people at the first hearing, but ultimately, plantings are quite subjective, so we're open to hear what people would want. So there's nothing on the plan right now, but that doesn't mean any recommendation from the board or from the public, we're happy to accommodate.
Now, did you say that you have had a glare study done?
Yes, sir.
And what were the results of that in regards to particularly those houses on Mary Drive?
No impact. No glare.
And how high was the berm that you were proposing between, on that south side of the array?
I believe we studied it from a glare perspective without any berm,
And what?
with no berm.
The study was done with no berm.
Sound study and the glare study were done separate and apart from the berm. The purpose of the berm is for visual impact only, not to mitigate sound or mitigate glare.
The access road goes 360.
Yeah, if I didn't mention it when I was speaking at the outset, we have received comments from Fire Department and Board of Health that have all been incorporated into the plan, so we've satisfied those requirements.
Gentlemen?
Until I finish going through this.
Yeah, I definitely want to look through that we got. Anybody out in Zoom or in the audience have any questions, comments, concerns? Please stand up, introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Tom Bosworth, 188 Middle Road. I'm just curious, where can I get copies? Can I get a copy of the plans or what they're doing for?
Though the plans are at the town clerk's office, if she wanted, but we don't give out sets of plans, do we?
I mean, I think I don't know if I have an extra. I could send you.
Right, but so I can go to the town hall and look at it or get a copy made?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Please.
Hi, I'm Steve George, and I live on Rhonda Drive. How far from the road is this berm gonna be? How far from the road, or how far from the back of the chain link fence is that berm gonna be?
Everything's, sorry,
Because I think it's supposed to be like 300 feet from the road.
everything's measured, so the road is Middle Road, so
Why Middle Road? What about Rhonda Drive?
I think there's no frontage on Rhonda Drive.
No, but it's Rhonda Drive is a road, so if you're gonna go, I thought it was 300 feet from the roadway. So that means it would be
It's-
200 feet.
It is 300 feet from any way. So this particular project does have a way actually on 3 sides. You got Middle, you got Mary, and you got Rhonda.
Right.
So by our bylaw, they need to be from edge of road to the panel, to
Okay.
the structure. They need to be 300 feet or a minimum of 150 feet from the panel to the property line, whichever one's greater. Looking at this right here, they are at least 150 feet from the property line. And I'm gonna say, they don't have, actually not on this page, they don't have, and Mary is actually almost twice as far. So, and Middle is way far. So Rhonda Drive is the only one. That's something that we went over with them clearly, and that was actually a question that came up of where exactly are the borders to. And we didn't, originally we didn't know if it was to the fence, if it was to the berm,
Well, the fence is the property line.
the property line is the property line, then you have, I don't think there are fences on the property line.
Well,
Then
it's
you
like
have,
it's like 1 foot from the property line in a bit.
There's
Is it existing?
I mean,
is that an existing
That's the
fence?
existing fence.
Okay.
The existing chain link fence.
Right, so I don't know if that's gonna stay or if they're moving. I know they're gonna have a chain link fence around the entire
Yeah.
perimeter for security. Then there's gonna, on the south and west side, like he had just mentioned, there's gonna be a 6-foot berm with a 6 to 8 foot fence on top of that. And that's more for visual for all these houses on Rhonda Drive, to hopefully not see the panels. Trying to get it as high as we can to eliminate the visual aspect of it.
Well, my concern is too, is the higher you're going with these panels or with these berms and these fences, does anybody realize how much wind is back there?
We were discussing the wind,
Okay,
yes.
the wind
Yes.
is, I can't put nothing in my backyard, really, an umbrella or anything in windy days, because it'll just get torn apart.
With that being said, let's just say hypothetically, they're gonna do a little study to find out exactly what they can put there and what can withstand the winds. It would be beneficial to them to do
Yeah.
that, because if they, whatever they put up, and if the wind knocks it down, they're just gonna have to go back and fix it.
But what if it damages the properties on Rhonda Drive? That's my main concern when
You're
it's
worried
coming
about
in.
a fence flying off?
Oh,
and-
yeah, I am.
Well, then, I can't hold them accountable for that just as much as I can't hold any of your neighbors accountable for putting up a fence as well,
Well,
because that can happen just about anywhere.
I know, but you're talking already 6 feet high, okay, and then a fence on top of that. So there's a lot of ground that that fence can come flying. I mean, my neighbor's fences are on the ground.
Well,
But
that
then
is-
the chances are of them getting lifted up and brought up into a house is kind of slim when it's already 6 feet, and then it's already been 6 feet up in the air. Okay?
I can understand the concern.
I'm just bringing in these points that I have
Yep.
questions on.
Yep, no, I
Okay.
understand that.
You know, and then,
Just 1 second, the gentleman had mentioned, because I brought the same fact up of being up too high in the wind load, and he's came back and said that his structural engineer would be reviewing that, and that fence would be designed to
okay,
withstand the wind load. That's basically the best that they can do, even if it's a,
Right.
if it's a 4-foot fence, or a 6-foot fence, or a 10-foot fence that goes on top, it's gonna have to be, engineered to withstand the load.
all right, now this access road that goes around the project, is this inside the berm or outside the berm?
Inside.
Inside the berm?
Inside the berm and inside the security fence that's between the berm and the access road.
And what about anything going with the groundwater? You know, that,
So now groundwater falls under a different area that's under
and the
conservation.
water table?
Well, the water table's a water table, but they do is, they do a study, the stormwater study does it, and again, this is with the Conservation Commission, not with this commission. But they do extensive study on which way the water flows. They put retention ponds to capture water. They slope the property so it all goes into the retention pond. Again, for us, one of our biggest concerns is visual. The biggest concern out of everything is water. We don't want water that's on this property to leave this property and go to anybody else's property.
Like Main Road, like Main
Like
Street?
Main Street, Meadow,
Right.
Rhonda, nobody. We've had, like the gentleman said, we've had issues with some of our earlier projects on Main Street. We don't want to have that problem again. The biggest issue for any solar field is water. Where's the water gonna go? It's against the law for any water on their property to go on anybody else's property. So their biggest issue, and they're still working on it, it hasn't been finalized yet, is to keep water on that on that property.
In terms of the Rhonda Drive parcel, the slope of the land is all away from Rhonda Drive. So in terms of surface water getting any impact on Rhonda Drive, I don't see where there's going to be any. The prevailing drainage route is down to the wetlands that's on the property right now.
Down to
And
that
then-
stream
and then-
that's in the back.
And then out, from the wetland system in the, let me get the.
Oh, you got that stream
would
that
be-
feeds,
that would be
what,
the-
Hamlin Street, that feeds Hamlin
Yeah,
Street?
Right.
the prevailing slope of the land feeds to the wetland and the existing pond that's on the property. all of that land drains down towards Middle Road, and there's two 36-inch diameter culverts. When I looked at it quickly this afternoon, there were like 30 pages to look through, so it didn't get a detailed look by me, but in terms of where the water's going to go, the surface water from stormwater runoff, it's going to go away from Rhonda Drive towards the wetlands that's on the site, down towards Middle Road, where there's two 36-inch diameter culverts that will get the water across Middle Road and downstream. So there won't be any, that I can't see.
No impact on Rhonda Drive.
I don't often say that there's going to be no impact on your property, but no impact from stormwater on your property.
Okay.
There will be an impact on the wetland. There's a very detailed description and back and forth between our reviewing engineer and theirs about runoff curve numbers and all this other stuff. Simply though, it goes to the wetland drains across Middle Road, and it appears that there shouldn't be ponds like we've had in others with no outlets, and what they call C and D soils, which do not percolate water at all. I mean, most of these, the ponds that are on site are all already at the low part. There's going to be water in them. There's water in them now. There'll be water in them when this project's done, and it'll be transported across Middle Road away from Water Street.
My only
Rhonda
other
Drive.
question is, where is this located in the field?
Where's
I
what?
haven't seen any plans. I was just curious. Where is it located? Does it go all the way to Phillips Road? Or where does it start on Rhonda? Does it start at my house at 1168? Does it start on Phillips Road? At that cul-de-sac on Phillips Road? You know, I'm just curious where the panels and the berm are gonna stop.
You can come take a quick look, if you like, at this map right here.
I don't see any turnaround. I don't see any cul-de-sac at
That's
the
an
end of
aerial
Phillips
view
Road.
of, and anybody else that wants to come and take a look. Rhonda Drive is right here. This is Rhonda Drive right here.
Rhonda, but this is Phillips, you got two houses right here too.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so that's gonna be from the panel to this first house right here is gonna be more than
A few
150
houses down
feet.
from you.
From the panel to that property line is 150 feet.
Over here.
From the panel.
From the panel, not the fence or the berm.
berm or anything
The
like
panel.
that.
So that property line is 150 feet. And then you got another 100 or 150 feet from there.
Yeah. All the lots are, I got the biggest lot at 110.
Right,
I got the corners.
Right, so right
My
there's
lot is
100, right.
110. From the nice spot from the road to the 110.
I just have to have that on.
It would be from here.
There's a back property line to the fence, but I'm not, I'm gonna waste water to
So yeah, this is one fences here.
the edge of the property line, okay?
3/4, 1
Okay.
3/4.
So the scale, just for reference, is, for 1 inch is 120 feet. So it should be,
And how close is it? How does it-
Again, this whole property line right here to the panel line, that is 150 feet.
Wow, it's gonna be right there. What's our house gonna be worth?
And I assume this is.
Who's gonna wanna buy a house with a bunch of solar panels in your backyard?
Construction's gonna come in and out.
Will our value of our house go down?
Yeah,
Will our
that's,
taxes go down? Because it's gonna be much shit. I wouldn't buy my house with a bunch of solar panels.
At least 6 to 10%.
again, it's a private piece of property.
Oh, I know it is.
And he
Yeah,
can
I
do
know
what he
it is.
wishes with
This
it.
is crazy, absolutely crazy.
That must be.
See if they go down to my taxes.
How far down is it? Come towards the cul-de-sac.
How you gonna sell your house? No,
Yeah,
you,
Phillips Road over
is
here, so it's
10,000
coming all the way
feet.
to the access road.
Really, think about it, with this big ugly fence. If I would've known this, I would've sold it a year ago.
Thank you.
Get the hell out of there.
Above this field. It's
So this is what I was saying.
Yeah.
So right here.
So that's coming in, right down to-
No, everything's gonna be coming in
From Acushnet?
from,
This is what
Yeah.
But the paneling is from all.
So they have hydrologic soils, the ACE.
And how far is that going to be? The edge of the fence?
Yeah, it's all grass.
It's grass.
Yes, it's
I lived there for 52 years, every house in that 50 silos.
Well, the minimum, all the
Yeah.
times, I guess it's different because you can go from 300 feet from the way.
Right, or a minimum of 150.
Yeah, so I mean, the impact of what.
Can we get it, can we get this under control, please?
So this right here is.
Any other questions? These are always at the town hall, at the clerk's office, you come and take as much time as you want to look at.
Okay.
Anybody else in the audience that has a question? Anybody on Zoom that has a question? Okay, anybody else on the board have anything else they'd like to add?
Sounds like you have no say.
I'm all set in
Money
terms of
talks.
presentation.
Yeah, as far as solar fields are concerned, and I understand some of your concerns, there is nothing that this board can do
Oh, I know, it's just.
tell them they can't do what they want to do on their private property.
I mean, we've been told legally by our own town council and by the state attorney general's office that we can condition the solar array to some degree, but not to such a degree that you can't put a solar farm there at all.
Right.
So we don't have the ability to just deny any solar farm that's there.
And a year or two ago, we amended the solar bylaw. It was one of the first projects that I was part of. This town had no bylaw. This town had nothing. And they could come in and do whatever they want, as close to the road as they wanted, they could do anything. We amended the bylaw, and it is one of the toughest bylaws in all its surrounding towns. And we purposefully made it difficult. But that's as far as we can go, or else the Attorney General will come down and tell us we can't do what we're trying to do. So this, I mean, and I will say, they have been very accommodating. We did a walkthrough, we told them what we wanted. They have another engineer, we have an engineer that works for us that is telling them, no, can't do this, has to do this. I mean, it's a book of it, which we haven't even looked through yet. And they haven't had a, no, I'm not gonna do that, or I don't think this is right, or anything. They've been very accommodating as far as this solar project has been going on. So I will say that. If there's anything else that you think that, is concerning, please bring it to our attention.
The only concern I have is the damage I could do to my property.
And again, that has nothing to do with this board, I apologize.
Yeah.
Gentlemen in the back,
Yes, sir, I just had actually one
please
question.
introduce yourself.
My name's Roland Gothia from 19 Mary Drive. I live at the back corner of this solar farm. And my property actually has an easement for the New Bedford sewer system on it. Now, the plot plan I got from you folks on where that easement is goes diagonally across my property. Wouldn't that lead right directly into the middle of that solar farm? Because it doesn't run parallel to the fence.
No, that's part of your question is answered in this 28 pages. I said 30, I was incorrect.
Okay.
They are going to have to relocate the force, I think it's a force main that goes through the property now.
I'm not a.
Yeah, the sewer that goes through the property is going to be, according to their 28 pages, going to be rerouted around the panels so that they will be able to access it and maintain it without having to rip panels up. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
And I would add that this response package should be at the clerk's office also. Is it Victoria?
It's in my office. I can leave a copy of the clerk.
I would, at this point, we've got interest, I would make sure the clerk has got a copy of that also, besides the plans.
Okay, so right now, we are to continue the public hearing. You want to go to the next one, or you want to go?
I know no one's had a chance to flip through the latest, but there's not much left open. So if it pleases the board, we'd request a continuance to the 17th, which I believe is the next meeting. Obviously, we'll be in touch if Bill's not ready by then, but the hope is to be ready by then.
Okay. Just so all of you know, we're going to continue this to the 17th. If for some reason our engineer isn't complete, we're going to come here on the 17th, and I'm going to push it off to another meeting. They pushed it off 3 times in a row. I requested that they send and notify you, and you all received something, correct? They didn't have to do that. They did it under our request. I'm not gonna ask them to do it again for the 17th, and if it goes one more, I'm not gonna have them do it again. It's the
But
public.
as long as it's posted on the website.
It will be posted,
Okay.
always
I
posted.
watched the website.
Okay, but I have a
know how
lot of
the
people
US
that get
mail
angry.
is.
A lot of people that show up and then it's been postponed, they weren't aware, and they get angry, and I try to make it as clear as possible that sometimes these things take time, and it might be postponed on the 17th. Hopefully, like the gentleman said, it is done by the 17th, and we get everything resolved by then. But you will not be notified again if
Yep.
it does get postponed, okay?
Yep. As long as
Gentlemen,
it's
I'll
posted on
entertain a
the-
motion.
Motion to
Continue.
close the, well,
No.
motion to continue and close. I want to make it a dual purpose one. I want to continue the meeting till the 17th. Is that the,
Thank you.
okay, so
Yeah.
till May 17th. I make a motion to continue it till then.
April 17th?
April,
April 17th.
April, okay,
Yep.
sorry, yep.
I got a motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
See you on the 17th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could, next time you come, if you can have a set of plans, so,
I'm gonna get everyone's email address right now and then send them.
even if you can, on the easel, just so if people want to come up and take a look next time you do come in, whether it's this one or another one in the future, just try to have something so people can look at when they come in. Thank you.
So much.
Have a good night.
All right.
Okay, so motion to close the public hearing.
No, we don't have to.
No,
We don't have to do
no.
that. Okay.
You only close it when we're done.
Okay, good. Super.
All right, I'm gonna go slightly out of order again, I apologize. Approval not required, 168 Lake Street, map 19, lot 2. Applicant and owner is Ellis Family Trust. Representative is John Romanelli at Zenith Land Surveyors LLC.
Before you go any further, I'm going to leave the room with the caveat that if you have any other questions that you need the owner to answer, I'd be glad to come back in and answer them. The only thing I will say this time is it's basically, I'm at an age where I can deal with estate planning, and that's what this is part of, that's all.
Not only are you a member of this board, but you are also a resident of this town. And if you have something that comes up that pertains to you, I feel you have the right to sit and listen and represent yourself if need be. So you don't have to leave it.
No, well, I'm not supposed to unduly influence, how the board votes on this.
That's
so,
up to you.
I'll sit in the back as long as nobody feels unduly influenced, and I promise to stay quiet.
Just don't have a party back there, okay? John, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, John Romanelli, Zenith Land Surveyors, 1162 Rockdale Avenue, Bedford, here representing the Ellis family. We performed a survey here a few months ago for Mr. Ellis and his wife. The existing property, I highlighted it here in green. It was a total of, it's about 5.5 acres total. And what they are trying to do again is for estate planning, we're going to cut off a portion of 168 Lake Street, the home of the Ellises. So we're going to continue that with a 2.24 acres. We're not touching frontage. We're basically just chopping off 3.12 acres of unbuildable parcels what we're creating. And at this point, like Rick said, for estate planning, it basically takes, I'm sure it takes some value out of his 5 acres by chopping off 3 of, basically unbuildable, because Wood Street is a private way that is not constructed. It's basically a wood walking path if you went out there and walked it. So at this point, that's not developable. I don't know if there's any plans to do anything with the trailer park. At this point, it's basically, we are creating a 3.12 acre non-buildable parcel and leaving Mr. Ellis and his wife with 2.24 acres. Again, it's got the area, it's got no wetlands, it's got more than 150 feet of frontage on Lake Street. So we're not creating any zoning infractions there. That's basically it.
Any questions? It seems pretty cut and dry, pretty straightforward.
That's all I do is cut and dry.
Yeah. What's everybody do?
Is Ash Street, just for reference, is Ash Street and Oak Street actually a street right now, or?
They are paper streets, but they're wooded. You
They're
couldn't
wooded,
tell
everything's
where you were
wooded,
walking if
okay.
you went out
Except for
there.
that one that says paved way, right? Pine
Correct.
Street?
Yes. Yeah, that's how you actually would drive down to the houses that are on the pond. Come down Wood Street, take a left on Pine Street.
Okay.
But oak is wooded, ash is a wooded lot, birch, maple, those are all just wooded lots.
There is a little bit of road frontage there, right?
There is on a private way, yes.
On the private way.
Yep.
Yeah,
Probably,
24 wide from, coming down Wood Road right there. If that's gravel, right, coming down through, so you can turn onto Pine Street to get down to the pond.
correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the plans for 168 Main Street for the division of the property owned by the Ellis Trust.
I have a motion.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you be signing my mark tonight, or is that?
We have it, we'll sign it. Yeah.
If not, he comes in and asks questions. No worries. You come in with the easy ones most of the time. Most of the time.
Most, had a few challenging ones.
Today
4/3/25.
Victoria, I will get you a recorded copy. That one's a recorded, and proof of recording.
Okay, awesome. I was just about to say that.
The new webpage on New Bedford, ooh.
You don't like it? I like it. I can print stuff easier
That's true.
after I search.
Rick, you wanna join us again?
You get way too comfortable back there.
Thank you for making those changes, by the way. If you ever want me to look at something before you print all the copies, feel free to. Yeah,
Thanks.
no problem.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Do we have one paper copy here?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Actually, we gotta, after the meeting, we gotta sign all the copies, right?
I just need one, but if you want one for yourself to keep at home.
Well, I just wanted one, because we have a discussion coming up about paper streets.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah, yeah.
and I, it's just a coincidence, but, I mean, I've been
There's three of them.
working with John over the last 3 years to get this plan done. So it's not something that got done all of a sudden, but it's a good example of the kind of issues that are going to face the board in the future relative to these paper streets, that's all.
Okay, good point. Okay, moving on. Finally, informal meeting east of the Acushnet, New Bedford line, map 17, lot 22B, dot 13. Applicant and owner is White's Farm, Inc. Representative is Matthew Connors. Weston and Sampson. Scope of the work proposed is a 4.9 megawatt solar PV development. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
Yep. So my name is Zachary Schroing. I'm Senior Director of Development at Sincarfa Capital.
And I'm Matthew Connors, I'm from Weston and Sampson, I'm the technical lead.
We also have Sarah, who is here participating via Zoom. She is our associate developer on this project.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Yep. So I just want to level set here too before we kick off. I know Sarah and Matt had the technical review here, but we're before the board because this project has had a long history. It was originally approved right around 2021. Long story short, it was approved being on Brooks Drive. We got all our permits and approvals, then realized that we didn't actually have legal access to Brooks Drive, so we came back before. We got it reapproved through Lambert. And at that point then, we worked with the Conservation Commission to redelineate some of the lines. We worked through that process. We've now come to an agreement on that. And that has then triggered minor revisions in these plan sets, which we would like to discuss today. I understand we actually applied as new application, and I understand it was touched on the technical review, but I think, one, we need to have a conversation about this, but also it might make sense to vote to actually withdraw this application, and then we reapply as a minor modification here as well.
Yeah, this one.
There's a lot of history to it.
I don't even know where to begin with this one.
And I will preface too, so I'm not new to solar by any means, but I just joined Sincarfa six months ago in October, so there are some nuanced details. I'll lean on to Sarah, who has a little more history of the project as well.
So now you're saying your intention is to withdraw the previous application? And, no, okay, I misunderstood.
So there was a little bit of a miscommunication when we submitted it, and we gave you every piece of documentation we could have, and it was treated as a, or I guess the miscommunication was, instead of being a minor modification, which is what we want, it was a new application, which is what we don't want.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's taken a while, but I mean, you've responded to all our comments in the past. There's obviously, this is the result of some working or not working with the neighbors. Yeah, okay, I understand. Thank you.
And you do have a lot of history. You've gone back and forth quite a few times. I will try to give as much background as I can on this project. So, originally you came in front of the planning board wanting to use Brooks Drive as your access road.
Correct.
We never actually, I don't think we never actually approved Brooks Drive. There was issues with neighbors, issues with accessibility, and then there was trees. I do recall that it was never actually approved by the planning board regardless of what you had going on with the neighbors. Then it went and you tried moving from Brooks over to Lambert. I do know, as far as the planning board's concerned, you did come in front of us with a set of plans to show us the continuation of Lambert with asphalt. We had public hearings, we had butters come in. You had a detailed set of plans on the entryway of Lambert into your project. It was basically going to be asphalted pretty much all the way, if not all the way, to the property line. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it came through us and you got approval from us as far as accessing Lambert is concerned.
Yep.
Since then, you guys have had issues, I know, with conservation. I know you guys have had issues with your wetland line. I know you guys have had issues with replication, and now you want to build a bridge or bridges. I'm not exactly sure. I don't see any detailed plans on here regarding the entryway. If
Sheet
I'm
104.
not mistaken.
There is something in the back.
There is?
It's more of a,
Oh, here's, oh, that's the entry.
it's more like a product cut, actually.
And you're-
Evidently, you'll have to fill in if I'm wrong, but evidently there's some kind of standardized wood pile bridge that, has yet to be, quote, designed, but you know how long it's gonna be and how wide it's gonna be.
Correct.
Just not necessarily how many piles and how big the supporting members have to be under the deck and how strong the deck is gonna be and all that kind of stuff.
Yep, that is correct. And
I had the wrong site to begin with on the other guy.
No, that's
To make
fine.
sure I'm in the right place this time.
I was going to say that bridges were popular, but I guess it's only our site. But but yeah, and to your point, sir, you're exactly correct on all that. And so obviously, as we've gone through all these changes and negotiations, right, we now have actually improved the total impact of wetlands and whatnot, hence the bridge and a few other details, and that obviously requires minor updates to these plans. And that was the point of us coming before the board here, just to explain that, get you up to speed, and just be transparent and communicate and go through the process.
Now, has the Conservation Commission looked at your stormwater management plan at the one that's on here? I don't have a good enough memory to know what detention ponds were or were not provided on the last one.
Do you want me to, so I have a presentation I can pull up and I can go through like what has been changed.
Please.
That would be great.
It's fairly minor, but
Yep,
it's,
that'd be great.
it improves the overall project, so let me,
There you go.
there we go. So I will, let me blur through some stuff here. So the outline in red, this is the lots that we're dealing with. We have our entries over here on Lambert. This, probably half of this lot is where, what I'm gonna refer to as the southern solar field. Coming across here, where I'll touch on, these are where the bridges are gonna be. And then this area here is the central solar field I'm gonna refer to. And then we have the northern solar field over here. This, between the northern and central is bisected by an easement for gas and electric. And then this street down here is park. So everybody's oriented. So between, this is, let me see here. So this is, so again, we have the southern field, we have a wetland on this side, we have a piece of it comes through here. This is our main entry point. I'll touch, sheet 104 kind of touches on this entry. And coming across here, we have basically our connector point. These two pieces in blue are the bridges that we're talking about. And prior to having the bridges, we were filling those areas. And in working through MIPA, we basically determined, instead of filling them, if we put bridges in, then we basically, number one, make a better project for the wetland area, but it pulls back a lot of our MIPA effort. So coming up through here, this is the central field, and I'll dig into this a little bit more, but this area over here is the new wetland delineation. The basin was originally over here, so we pulled it back out of the wetland area. And then this field is, I think it was 85 panels, tables, and now it's 60 tables. So it's been reduced. This area up here really hasn't changed at all. There's just about nothing that's happened up in there.
Have the limits, the outer limits of where the panels are placed now, has that expanded over?
Shrunk.
It's shrunk, okay. Again, it's been a while.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. And so this is the northern area. And again, this area is essentially the same. Nothing's changed up here. In blue circles, this is the detention basins. We have one on the east side and one on the west side because we have a high spot that basically bisects this upper area. In green, these are filter strip berms to slow down the stormwater as it comes across the property. And then these areas in purplish are water quality swells. So as the water comes down, Water quality soil picks it up, takes it to the basin, basin discharges it into the wetland. Same thing happens on this side, filter strips to the water quality swale, and then we have basin, and basin discharges to the wetland. This area down here in the red circle is the cistern, and that was provided for the fire department. They wanted 1,500 gallon cisterns in the areas. Let's see. Hang on, my computer's acting weird. There we go. All right, and then, so this is the central and the southern area. So the central piece, again, as we went through the process with the Conservation Commission, the wetland line was originally over here, and it's now over here, and that basically had us pull our basin out of the wetland, because that doesn't really work. But the actual process of everything else is primarily the same. We have filter strips, and there is no water quality swell here because at the low end of the field, the basin basically takes up the entire breadth of it, so there's no reason to reallocate water towards that. And then discharges to the wetland. Coming through here, this is another cistern. This area here is the bridges. So we have one bridge with some land and another bridge, and we're basically going over the wetlands, the new delineation of the wetlands. Coming in here, this primarily really hasn't changed either. At the end, we have a basin, we have filter strips, we have a water quality swell. Pretty much operates the same as the northern. This piece down here goes out to Park. That's our Lambert Street connection. So for our Lambert Street connection, we have a little bit of fill. I believe it's 2,700 square feet. And we have replication area here. This is a bit more detailed of it, but it's not quite 2-1 on fill to replication. There's a little bit of pavement out here. We have a water quality swell that picks up the new road section. We've graded it towards my side, I guess east. Water quality swell with some check dams to keep the water slow, take out the TSS, and then that goes to the well. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, the primary changes are the bridges between the southern and the central, and some minor changes in the central because of the changes to the wetland delineation.
Yep.
So, even though you're putting bridges and you're not filling that whole area, there is some,
There's some disturbance.
there's
yes.
still some disturbance. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can only replicate 5,000 square feet. You got about 2,500 here in the front.
Correct.
That doesn't go over whatever disturbance you're doing?
No, because, so the disturbance from the bridge portion, the permanent disturbance, is gonna be about, we're estimating about 250 square feet.
Yep.
And that's because of the support system for the bridge.
Bridging over rather than disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
You're bridging over everything rather than.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, to reduce the
Makes sense.
filling and reduce the environmental impact.
Right.
and
Yep.
All that good stuff.
Yep.
They wouldn't do it unless they were told to do it. They would have done the fill, it would have been a lot cheaper, but.
I do a question I get for reference. If we go back to the previous map, how much of that property where we are, is this the dotted line that's shown on C-101? Is that the extent of the land limit?
No, we're not clearing everything. So this is the property.
Okay.
This is a portion coming up through here. This is a funky shaped property. It's gonna be a piece that comes through here. Our limit of work is very tight. There is actually a limit of work line that comes through here. We're not going past the fence.
If you could just, so that people can see
Oh,
it,
yes,
if you could
absolutely.
point that out, that's good.
It is on.
A point of reference, just for the public to understand.
So, as we were discussing, you want the upper one, right? Hang on, let me go to the right page.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is the property line. This line out here, it's kind of funky at the end of the day, but we have a road that goes around the property, or it's not a road, it's more of a path, but it's 20 feet wide, is what the fire department wanted. On the outside of that is a fence, and that's basically our limit of work. We're not clearing the rest of it. A lot of it's wetlands, so we don't want to go into it at all. And we're trying as much as we can to stay, at least on this upper portion, the majority of the area in the 100-foot buffer, we have tried to stay out of as much as possible. This side here, we're in it a little bit here and there. It's a little bit tighter on this side as we come through, and then down here, the basin is probably the closest to the wetland buffer, and I believe we tried to keep it 25 feet off the edge, from the outer edge of the berm. On this side here, there's a little bit where we're in the 100-foot buffer in this area here. That's actually this line as we come through. Cutting across, obviously, we're in the wetland as well as in the buffer, but for connectivity, there's really no way around that. And then down in here, in the southern area, again, we're only clearing to the fence line. We have basically a wetland on this side. We're not going into the wetland. We are in the buffer in this area. And then I'm going to go down to this piece. For basically to get to the road, we are going through the buffer, and that's the area that we're filling. So.
Thank you.
How far down Lambert Street were you going to actually put pavement in? Or were you going to put any pavement in at all?
That is a good, I don't know that off the top of my head. Sarah, do you know, or that might be a question we go back to Chris on as well.
I mean,
I unfortunately, I also don't know the exact location of that, but we can get back to you.
okay, I mean, that was an issue with the abutter on Lambert Street, you know, in terms of what was going to happen to that road. And, you know, the Lambert Street is not in the best of condition, and there will, although once it gets built, there won't be much going on there for traffic. During construction, there will be.
Right.
And if the road is so beat up, especially that last leg beyond Park Drive, I think that's something that the board would want to look at. I certainly would. I wouldn't want to see all the trucking to happen, the construction equipment, and the pile driver equipment and all that stuff, and then what is a marginal road now gets just torn up completely. I think that's something that I would want to see addressed in some fashion.
Yeah,
I'd actually have to go back out and take a ride up there and take a look at it.
What I'd say is let us just discuss with our rest of our team, just so we can get up to speed on it too, and then we can definitely figure out a way to address that.
Okay.
Yep.
Again, this started a long time ago. I mean, now that you're even talking, I'm thinking of, we wanted, because of the roads to get in and out of this area are so tight that, if I recall correctly, we wanted.
That's right, too, the path to get to that site,
we wanted to have signage for the truckers to only go down a certain path. I don't remember if we coordinated with the police department to discuss which roads we wanted actually used, whether you're gonna go out through Acushnet or you're gonna go out through New Bedford. But that, I mean, and I'm gonna have.
We developed the traffic management plan. I would have to dig that up because like you said, we did do it a long time ago, but we did discuss this in our previous board meetings.
Right, and what I would like, if you could, dig up everything. So if you're gonna dig up that traffic report, and I'm gonna do the same on my side, I'm gonna watch these old meeting minutes to remember the board's issues back then, because I know everything wasn't resolved back then, and it's been a long time that you guys have been in front of us. So if you could bring everything that you have from way back when, I'm gonna do some research and look at what was issues from the board back then. And yeah, we definitely gotta kinda not start from the beginning, but we definitely gotta refresh everybody on what's going on.
Get up to speed.
We
Get
can
everybody up to
provide a
speed.
timeline for you too, from the records that we have, if that helps out.
Yeah,
Yes.
as much as you can give me will help out.
Yep.
And that's definitely something, like I said, I know that most of your issues are with conservation.
Yes.
Most of your issues prior to, I know we approved Lambert Street. I know you've abandoned Brooks Ave. I know we've approved Lambert Street. So there are changes here. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but the planning board and conservation can approve minor changes.
I don't want to speak for conservation, just because that's not my department.
No, I'm not
anymore, but-
asking you to speak whether these are minor changes
No, no,
or
I
not.
know. Yeah, planning board can approve modification, minor modification to a plan they feel is minor, but it'd be up to the board if they feel that the changes rise to the level of needing a new public hearing, if the plan changes are that significant.
Now, let me ask you also, if the planning board finds it okay, but the conservation finds that it's major, then what?
You are reviewing two different things, so that's just something to be mindful. I would just say if the changes to conservation could potentially affect the plan, you know, if they're not okay with it and the plan has to change again, that's just something the board should consider. We just want to make sure we're working off the same plan set, which I mentioned earlier.
And that's why we resubmitted, is because we want to make sure that we have both same plans with both entities.
Right.
And I will say that our intent was originally to go to COMCON first and then planning board, like stagger them. Obviously, as we touched on earlier, there was a confusion and mix up here, like we weren't applying for like a new application, but more of a minor modification. So, you know, with that said, originally, you know, the intent was to go for COMCOM first, have that conversation. Obviously, if they had any comments, make those revisions or changes, and then have a follow-up conversation here as well.
Because we got Bill Madden doing the review on this one as well, correct? The peer review, is it Bill Madden doing the peer review for this one as well?
Currently, there's no peer review. I think he did, GAF did review it in the past, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, but currently there's nothing right now.
So peer review is complete, or this will, once they're done with this set of plans, it's gonna have to go to peer review again?
I will leave that up to the board. I think as far as their previous approval, you know, it was peer reviewed, right? As far as previous approval. Yep, so it really depends on the board. And if you feel that the changes rise to the level of, you know, if you're not comfortable making that determination, you could request, you know, JDF to look at it, to say, do you think this, you know, this changes to, whether it's Concom for stormwater or whatever, rise to the level of that or not? You have a couple options.
Gotcha.
I think we're just gonna look at the original.
Yeah.
because How much has changed
Yeah.
with the overall layout
Yeah.
of the original plan? I mean,
It would be
have we
nice-
tried- have we reduced any
I can get you,
panels?
I can get you the original plans that we have for your record.
Yeah, yeah.
Not a problem, but in a summary, it's the same layout. We're making little tweaks and changes as we
Right,
go through
I'm
this.
concerned like the original layout of the array of the panels, none of that stuff has
All that
changed?
stuff is the
same.
same,
It's okay.
with the exception of just the center
This
array,
piece here is what's changed, and it's been pulled this way, smaller.
which is why we lost, I think it was like 15 tables.
Something like that, 15
of
tables.
modules.
Okay, so yeah, it's the overall kilowatts and
Dropped
reduced?
slightly.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But the intent is to use the same module class and
Okay.
everything.
I just had a quick question, I'm sorry. Just for the record, I've had a couple questions on it. When you refer to it as megawatt, I might have put on the agenda that it was DC. Is it technically like,
So there's two, there's a
Set,
DC and an
right, and the
AC
AC, so it's-
ranking, and on the cover page, I believe we put both, so you'd see what.
okay,
Okay.
Is there one that most people go by more than the other?
I don't think so.
It varies, I mean.
Because one number's bigger than the
Yeah,
other.
the
Right.
AC size remains the same because that's what we're injecting into the grid. That's what the utility recognizes. The DC has slunk just a hair because of the loss of 15 tables.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I don't know that exact number off the top of my head, but it's negligible.
It's
really.
around 7, right?
Yeah.
Around
Yeah.
7
Yeah.
megawatts, okay.
So, but, you know, as I was saying, this area here used to come, this basin used to be over here.
Yeah.
And we pulled it, this, you know, now we have all these A-series flags, it's A100s are the new flags. So the basin ended up being pushed this way. This field here had to get reconfigured, so it basically shrank because we don't have nearly the amount of space. So that's the change
It's that and the bridge.
in the bridge.
The two bridge spans.
Everything else was approved, and the bridge is in the same spot.
I'd rather see bridges than fill.
Yeah.
In those areas, that's my personal opinion.
The bridge is in the same spot as where we were crossing.
Yeah.
So even the layout really hasn't
Yeah, because
changed.
before you would have been over 5,000, you would have had to
We
go
were about
to.
9,000 square feet
Yeah.
before, so we had MEPA issues. But if we take that fill out of that area and put bridge sections in, we're well below the 5,000
Right.
square
Yeah.
feet of permit.
Right.
And that's the thing, if anything, when you look at this conceptually, right, what was the last approved in Lambert versus now? I mean, these are minor modifications, but if anything, they're actually improving the overall impact and footprint of the project.
I guess my only other comment is, and it's just based on some history we've had with a couple of the other projects, is there needs to be a clear limit of clearing, no pun intended at all. There were some liberties taken, and we made some, I did too, some bad assumptions. The panel construction was pulled back considerably, but they cleared the whole site right out to the property line. And that did create some problems with conservation and with the neighbors.
Sure.
Obviously, we're not anxious to see that repeat itself.
And understandably so, we also don't want to be on the other side of that either.
I guess that's my only real major concern at this point, is that instead of clearing it and asking for permission later, let's get it straightened out ahead of time.
Yeah, and that's why we're here too.
That created a tremendously adversarial position between the contractor, the person who actually owned the property, and the town.
Yep.
And I for one am not anxious to see that repeat itself on any solar project, as long as I'm sitting on the board anyway.
Sure.
Your access road, that's a gravel road, it goes around.
Yeah.
the-
Nope, well, all right, let me clarify this, because in this piece here, all the sections are connected by a gravel road. So this is gravel coming through here, actually, this looks easy. This comes up, and this is gravel, and then this piece down to here is gravel. The rest of these exterior are grassed, so that you can have 360-degree access, but we're not putting gravel everywhere.
And you got the fire chief's approval on this?
For this plan, when it was approved in 2003, the fire chief approved it.
I think
In
our
2003, no, I mean the fire chief there today.
So that's another discussion that came up this afternoon. He's gonna go back and look at what the records were and what was approved, so that there's clarity on that.
Yeah.
I mean, things like the tanker truck are going to be heavy,
Yeah.
and it needs to be suitable in all weather conditions for that tanker truck to get in and around the property. But that's,
So again,
so
he's,
we are, I certainly would be looking for something from the current fire chief, that he's satisfied with that
Being able to get all the way around. and
system
just
of
grass.
improvement around the panels.
He's
See,
gonna-
see,
Yeah,
see
I
how
don't know
that-
what the
that-
legalities are behind it, if one former chief approved it back, 2000 when?
23.
23. No, a new fire chief, I mean, I'd like to.
Yeah, if the
definitely
road's
get
gotta
his-
be changed a little bit to satisfy him, I mean,
Yeah.
I would look at that as a minor
Yeah.
improvement.
Yeah,
But that said, Mark, that would be another thing, that if you could do like an overlay, if it was all gravel before and now it's part gravel and part grass, that's something we have to address.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around, so it's.
Well,
it's-
whichever way it is, yeah.
Right, I mean, it's
Yeah.
always, what was approved was what you're seeing. It's park gravel, park
Park grass. Ask the current fire chief.
Yeah, just, I definitely want something written by him that he's okay with this.
Sure.
I would not want to be driving a tanker truck around near the edge of the wetland in the spring when that top 3 or 4 inches or 6 inches of loam turns to mush.
And I'll tell you what, we've had issues like this in the past, and I don't know, we've made them change it. So, again, you're out in the middle of nowhere, this is out in the middle of the woods. If there's an issue way out back and the tanker truck has to get out there, or something's gonna get out there, I feel that the fire department should have access with some of that big equipment to get back there. I'm not the fire chief, I'm not the one that's gonna be doing it, so it's his call. But I frown on the fact that there isn't a gravel road all the way around. This has chain link fence, security fence all the way around.
Correct. Yep.
Obviously, we're not worried about screening, there's no neighbors that can see anything. Again, this has been a long time since it's been in front of us. I know you got a little bit of a road with conservation.
Yeah.
And we've submitted the conservation, so that process has started.
Yep, no, I am aware. Please, next time we come back, do some digging on what was approved, what wasn't approved, everything that was brought up, because I'm gonna do the same on our end.
Yes, sir.
The roadway, the access, I know there was signs that have to be put up for the truckers to know which way to go. There was a lot of conversation regarding that. There's a lot of conversation on that, and you had picked up on it, that Lambert, not only Lambert, but all the roads leading to this site aren't in the best condition. What happens with all the trucks going in and out? There's a lot that I recall was discussed, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'd like to get refreshed on that, do the best you can on that.
And ultimately, that's going to behoove you too.
Yeah.
You don't want trucks wandering around the neighborhood trying to find out how to get to the site.
No.
It's not an easy place to get to.
Correct.
I've been in town all my life, and I still get confused when I drive back there sometimes. I mean,
Come on.
you went this road and that road, this one goes right, this one goes, it's not
And they're tough.
particularly easy. But that way, if there is a designated route, at least it limits the possibility of people coming back and saying, I've got a pothole in front of my street that I never had before. If there's a designated trucking route and you can keep the bulk of the traffic on that route, at least that limits your liability in terms of potholes and road destruction.
I think I did recommend to us before they did this before they started doing that road, take a good video of the conditions of the roads back there.
Absolutely.
And the other part of the discussion was time of day to avoid
School bus.
Yeah,
school bus
100%.
traffic.
Yeah,
right?
that makes
And
sense.
School time.
That,
Other
again,
than that,
that will
it's-
just help your truckers out. They'll be spending less time, standing there,
Yep.
waiting for the school bus to get out of the way.
And the more information you can feed the board,
Absolutely.
the easier it'll be for you.
Yep.
And the quicker we can get this done. Again, you and conservation is a whole nother story, that's between you guys. But the more you feed us from what was approved or not approved or whatever back then, would be very appreciated.
Sounds good. We can
Just
certainly
go
do
in
it.
front of conservation before it comes back to us now at this point.
I think it's scheduled to go, Mark, it's scheduled to go in front of you soon?
Yeah, our next meeting, I'm Mark Minton, I'm the
Hey, Mark.
conservation agent. Next meeting is April 9th. I don't think it's on, I
We're on
think it'll be.
the
Yeah,
27th.
it's the
Yeah.
following
Yeah.
one.
It's the 23rd.
Oh, thank you.
So,
And we
yeah.
have the plans.
Yeah, third week
Yeah,
April.
I know, like I said, I know you guys have issues with them. That's between you two. So what are we doing today? We just continuing this?
Well, I think it's we're gonna withdraw.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so if that's the request, I would,
Yeah, our intent
motion
is
from the board,
not
just
to
for
be
the
a
record.
new application, but
That was never the intent. The intent was to come for a minor modification.
All right, let me ask the board, do you gentlemen feel what they're doing is a minor modification?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, there's less panels than there were before. I mean, the wetlands impact has been reduced. All the feedback we got from the neighbors for, I think it was access off of Park Drive, that they're not even using now, that's not an issue. The only one that I remember is the last house at the end of Lambert.
Right, he wanted asphalt, I think maybe to the end of his property line, or,
Which I believe is,
Thank you.
there's a section of pavement, I believe it does go past his driveway.
yeah, so that's what it was.
Yeah.
I guess what the only recommendation would have, just give us a summary of what
Yep.
the
Yeah.
changes are.
We'll do
So
that.
Yeah.
we can flip through and get a visual, you
Sure.
know, a written summary.
So I'll get you a summary of what's happened so far.
Yep.
And then I'll give you a summary of basically the two changes that
Yep, that would
have
be
been
great.
triggered.
The changes that have been required
Right.
because of the process you go through.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
I
And I
don't
will-
really want to know about all the details of the MIPA filing.
Oh, come on. And then we'll dig through all of our records and we'll try to get you
Yeah,
copies of
because
it.
again, as much information, because the last thing you need is for somebody to want a new traffic study or something done, and you guys already have one.
Yeah.
The more you support with us, the quicker it is for you.
My intent is to get all this resolved and get it built.
Okay.
Okay, what are we doing?
So if
Another
you
no
want
action,
to, if you want to accept the withdrawal,
Hold on a second.
I just had one question.
Please.
So, hi again, I'm Mark.
Yep.
When did the project go through MIPA?
We talked with MIPA
Oh, okay.
and we got input from them about how to not go through
Okay.
MIPA.
Not
So
to
that's
trigger-
what basically the premise of removing that fill and putting bridges in got us below the 5,000 square foot threshold.
Okay, so that's within the last year you had this?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, thanks, it just,
Sure.
thanks.
Yeah, of course.
We've been talking with a bunch of entities to try.
So it would be a motion
Yeah.
to entertain resubmission of the project as
Familiar with MIPA.
a minor modification of the previous approval?
well,
Is
just stepping back for a second, they wanted to request a withdrawal,
Yeah,
right?
we want
of
to
the-
withdraw. We realize this came across.
Withdrawal's a strong word.
Right, so we'll
Can we request
I
a
know what the intent
conversion?
is, but we gotta verbalize it
We-
correctly.
So I would say, so they did submit, and I have a package here, they did submit new applications. So if the request is to withdraw, and that's the board's, the board would like to do that, I would recommend a motion to withdraw without prejudice. I think the board does not have to make a decision tonight as to whether or not you guys feel that this is a minor modification. If you do feel that it rises to the level of a new public hearing, all of this information is based off of our old bylaws anyway. They would need to resubmit the package regardless. Does that make sense?
Resubmit the package under the old bylaw, or the new bylaw.
No, I'm sorry. So if you feel that this requires a new public hearing, they would have to adhere to the new bylaws,
Right.
right? So that means they would have to resubmit anyways, and
Right.
this doesn't apply.
Gotcha.
So it's up to the board.
So we're just trying to take they asked for a new permit, we're just gonna let them withdraw it.
Correct, and
Yeah.
then they will come next time, correct me if I'm wrong, to discuss the minor modification, they'll have more
To the
information.
existing.
Correct, so at that point, you can, if the board is comfortable, make the vote or not as to whether you feel that is a minor modification. So two separate votes, that makes sense.
It does.
Okay,
So
I
let's-
understand the concept, I'm not quite sure how to word it, so.
Yeah. I'll entertain a motion to approve the withdrawal without prejudice of this
Plan.
Plan.
Is that out? I got a motion.
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so you didn't apply for a new permit.
Correct.
You have the existing permit.
Yep.
We just went over some of the changes today.
Yep.
Now you're gonna come back to us Somewhere in the future soon, or we haven't set a
I'd like
date.
to, I'd like to meet with the conservation
I
first.
would agree with
Correct.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
and
would
then
agree
once,
with getting some of that resolved,
Yep.
because I don't approve anything until they're happy.
Yep.
And until they're happy, we're not happy.
Yep, makes sense.
So, make them happy, come back and see us, tell me that they're happy, and then everybody will be happy.
sounds good. So I'll talk with Victoria as we go through the process, make sure
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page.
Yeah,
And then you'll see us hopefully.
Next couple of months.
In a month or two.
okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, we really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I
Sarah?
do want to add just one component here, sorry to extend this. We are also requesting an extension for the permit, which is expiring in the summer. But that is something that I can discuss with Victoria on whether or not that should be included in our current package or if that should be separate. It's also something that we're sorting out with the Concom, so it depends on your preference whether or not we want it to be, if you want it to be separate or not, or all in one minor modification.
So if I can speak.
Please.
Just like, I know we had spoken a little bit about this earlier, this permit is probably covered under the recent permit extension, signed by the governor. So I'll forward the guidance we received from our attorney, because it has the specific dates in there.
Yep.
I'll
And that's
forward-
Alex, right? Is it
Our-
Alex?
We use KP Law, sometimes
Okay.
it's different people. But I'll forward you that guidance we received, just so we're both on the same page. But I do not think you need an extension, but we can verify the dates, just to
Awesome.
make sure.
Thank you.
It might
Thank
be
you.
covered.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years now, right? Is that- it's not-
I thought it was 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's, the extension, I think is 2 years. But like I said, I just want to double check the dates before I say for
Okay.
certain.
Yeah.
But isn't the initial permit,
Forward the guidance? Yep.
isn't the initial approval good for 3 years now because of what the state did through the process?
It was 3 years, but then we changed it at town meeting and made all our special permits back
Okay,
down to 2.
okay. But this was under the old one, right?
This was under the old one, and
So
then the
they-
governor's made all
Yeah,
kinds
I
of
mean,
changes.
it's
since
a legal
then.
thing, that's why.
I'm gonna go with what your attorney says.
Yeah. It's a lot of legal.
Yeah, it's a lot of legal. Let's get before the Concom first.
Yeah.
We'll come back and we'll close it all out.
Sounds
Anytime.
good.
Sounds
good.
All right.
Gentlemen,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
down.
Of course.
Hope you have a
No
safe
problem.
flight.
I did. All good. Thank you.
When I was on the other side.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
I think it's actually.
When I was on the other side, anytime somebody said withdraw, was a hard.
Yeah. no,
That was not a warm and friendly
Yeah,
word.
they don't want to withdraw, they just withdrew this one and kept the old one.
I'm Mark.
Actually,
Zach.
sorry.
Zach, yeah, I'm Zach. There was a call earlier and I missed it.
You
So I
made
just came to sit on it.
I
I don't know.
made the
Yeah, you
motion.
made the
I made the
motion.
motion, he
Also
seconded it.
the age and the
Okay,
age.
sorry about that.
Okay.
It's okay.
Is it?
Yeah, no, it's okay.
So I just wanted to.
I mean, there was a little bit of confusion,
Yeah,
so,
no, we just, we've got
just so everybody's clear, we just withdrew the new application, that booklet over there. The only thing we withdrew, they're gonna continue under their old permit that they had.
Which was their
Then they're
original.
gonna come back, when we get all the information, they'll come back, we'll see what the changes were, and then we'll decide whether it's,
Absolutely.
Whether it falls under a minor change or a major
Correct.
change.
People left.
Correct.
Right. And if it's a major change, then everything is thrown away and
That's
it's
one
not
thing
scrapped.
Correct.
And if they can present it like that again, just the way they did, being
Site
able
Teams-
to.
It's nice on Teams, right?
For those folks, because there's the Mullen Road.
Then our-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
same concept, yeah.
But the same concept, being able to have
Yeah,
it and being able to, like Rick requested an overlay of the old one on top.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
stick to do
With any changes highlighted, and then
Yes.
that makes it
Yeah,
easier to
prefer-
discuss,
Absolutely.
rather than look
Yeah.
at 3,000 panels and what's changed between the old one.
Did Joanne put it?
Gentlemen, can I ask you to, Mark, can I ask you guys to take a step up?
I'm sorry.
No worries, thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Have
You
a
got
good
it,
night.
buddy. Thank you.
Next week.
All right,
Yeah, no, so. we
let's go to
I mean,
other
otherwise,
topics. And we're gonna discuss, let's have a continued discussion on the solar bylaw amendment. At our last meeting, Victoria was good enough to go through our entire bylaw and highlight a lot of changes. I also went over all of the changes that she recommended. Some I agree with, I think that we should do. Others, I disagree with, I think we should keep, mostly is the, everything that's repetitive, I think we should keep. The more times it's repeated, the less excuses people have that they didn't see something.
Agreed.
But there are certain things, like here on page 1, she wants to change the wording. So all the wording of large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic installation should all be consistent throughout the bylaw. I agree. The repetitiveness, I would like to keep. We want to specify as to the edge of the panels. That's the kind of the biggest issue that this started out with.
And any appurtenance that goes with it, any potential battery storage, any buildings,
Anything.
anything.
Yeah.
Either the structure, or either the panels, or any structure.
Or we just put structure, and that means
And that
anything.
means panel.
That means panel.
But that doesn't include
See, the thing,
stormwater.
No.
you know, I'm, in terms of the details, some of the things are necessarily, I would think, going to be closer to the street. I mean, like maybe the batteries, maybe
Right.
because at some point, they've got to transmit the power out to the street. And I don't know if there's going to be a need to put some of that equipment closer to the street or not, or closer to the property line. I don't know.
We just gotta make sure that if they, depending on the way the structure's designed, that it is 150 feet minimum from the property line, or 300 feet away from the way.
Yeah.
And that means we just don't have what is 150 or 300 feet. So we have to specify any panel, any storage facility, any,
And to that point, I was
And it's gonna
just reviewing something from Cape Cod Commerce, and that was one of the recommendations. This is going back to 21. That was one of the recommendations, is to make your setbacks to any structure or appurtenance
Okay.
or the field.
It would have to, probably not including utility poles and stuff.
Right, but it
Right.
had to do with any kind of structure or the battery storage building that may be put on the site that
And battery,
that-
I mean, battery
necessary
storage,
for the field.
battery storage, I would think would be,
closer.
if I was, I want to put a different hat on. If I was the fire chief, because of all the problems there have been on airplanes and other locations with batteries suddenly deciding to start on fire, if I was a fire chief, I would want battery storage closer to the street, to be quite honest with you, or easier for access rather than buried way back
Right.
at the end of the parcel. I'm just saying stuff right now. Not, there may, now on the other hand, if it's an inverter that's gonna make noise, I don't want it next to my house.
Right.
Because I don't need to hear that
Right.
all day and all night, every day for the year.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, maybe a little, I don't know.
I just think we need clarification on the bylaw to where they're measuring off of. I don't want people to mistake the security fence or the screening fence as being part of that 150. It goes to a structure, which is a panel or.
Define the structures, yes.
Right, define the structure.
Storage facility,
Right, storage facility.
Inverter,
Right.
inverter.
Right. Anything that is a structure. I mean, I wouldn't consider a pole part of that, and I wouldn't consider
It's
stormwater drainage lines or culverts or things like that part of it. It's,
I think so.
Well,
Things like-
detention ponds would have to be almost part of that, because I don't know if I'd want it, I don't know if I would want it within the, on my property line either. So if we're gonna go down that road, I mean, we gotta set, the minimum clearance from anybody's property line, putting a retention pond
well,
in.
all retention ponds in this town are, they're not holding ponds, they're retention ponds, so they're not holding any water. So whether,
Filtration basins.
yeah, they're filtration ponds, so then whether the property is flat within 150 feet, or it's flat, goes down a foot and it comes up a foot as a little pond, I don't see an issue with that being within 150 feet. That's not obstruction of view, that's not hindering anything having a retention pond in that area if it's what's needed to be, in my opinion. Question? Another thing I think that Victoria highlighted here is there should be deleted is a special permit fee. The fee isn't something that is, made up at the time. We have a fee schedule, so that's something that should be taken out of here, and they should look at our fee schedule to verify what the fee is.
That'll make it easier to change in the future if so required.
Yes.
If you have something like that in 2 or 3 places, and you don't catch all 3 of them,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Everything else is, a lot is what Victoria highlights is things that are repetitive. I say keep that. What did I add here? She put for a solar array, this is not needed. It says here that the applicant shall provide information for adjacent roadway in the area of the proposed project to include accident data for the previous 3 years, site distance, roadway construction, existing traffic volumes, and site-generated traffic. Victoria has a note here saying that, we should probably delete this. I agree that this isn't something that has a lot of movement. It is under... It's under number, vehicle and emergency access, number 2. There's no page number.
Okay,
Page
I get you.
Now, once the solar field is built, then there's very, very little traffic coming in and out of the solar field. So I agree that this doesn't pertain to a solar field as far as, but during construction, like this one that we just saw, there's gonna be an extensive amount of construction going on for, 6 months to a year to have this. I think that, they should definitely have some kind of, site restriction or, traffic guidelines during the construction period.
Yeah.
My comment was mainly to the accident data.
Accident.
It's relatively
The crash
easy to get, but
I don't think that's really
And
necessary.
we're already waiving that for the first project. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. The board sounded amenable to that waiver from the project that's in front of us when that was presented. So.
Yeah, it's not like you're putting up a big office building or a retail facility with a drive-through. I mean, those are critical in terms of adjacent intersections and accident reports and stuff like that. I mean,
that's why I think I should.
Every morning I drive down Middle Road past the array that's in the cranberry bogs where Pine Hill Pavilion used to be, and other than during construction, I don't think I've seen more than 1 or 2 vehicles from, every couple of months kind of thing. There's not a lot of activity.
No, once it's built, there's very little activity.
And even when they start bringing solar panels in, they don't bring all of them in and make a big pile. They're taken in, sequentially to some degree.
Right.
So that they don't have to have this huge stockpile area. I mean, you still have the issue like this last one where if the roads are tender, yes, they may be damaged during the construction process. But
another thing that Victoria highlighted is to consider adding preferred fence types. I think that's a pretty good idea. We should put right in there, we prefer, X, Y, and Z, so we don't have what happened over on Robinson Road with that, cattle fence, whatever you want to call it. I think if we have something in the bylaw saying this board prefers, whether it's the staggered fence, whether it's the vinyl fence, whatever, I think vinyl's kind of cheesy. But,
myself, I'm a fan of berms because they don't blow away you know, they don't fall apart.
I do like
This-
berms, and I am curious to go to where he said that they built that last one. I wanna go see what they did. Over in,
I've seen that one.
yeah, I like the one right, that's in Wareham, right? If you go up the back way to Lowe's,
Yeah.
on the opposite back half of Lowe's, and you get that big solar farm, they have, I don't know, it's like a 4-foot berm, maybe it could be, I don't think it's 6 feet. And then they have a big row of abrevieties across the top of it, you know what I mean? It looks really nice, it screens, but obviously it takes years for those abrevieties to grow. It's not something that happens overnight, but as far as aesthetics are concerned, I think that's a really good look.
Yeah, I mean, right on one of the solar arrays off of Wing Road in town, they built this berm, I swear it's 8 or 10 feet high. And then the arborvitaes that are on top of the berm, they must be another 15 or 20 feet high.
That's the right when you first drive in on the right there, yeah.
That's a screen.
Yeah, see, I think if we're all in favor of something like that, where, you know, if you, like Middle Road, yeah, should they put a berm all the way around? No, there's no houses in the front, there's no houses to the north. But if we have something in here saying if you're, you know, within X amount of feet, or if there's a lot of housing on, you know, whatever side, then yes, you need a berm.
It's
You gotta
easier-
put in a berm, and then you can either, you know, we could discuss, you put a fence on that berm, or you put abrevieties on that berm, but
It's easier to write in the maximum and then give some relief
yes,
than it is to.
try to give it to them later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
To that point is where I was gonna go, basically, same thing with the traffic study. It should be, we should still have the right to reserve, depending on where a solar field ends up, okay, or being proposed, it may be different. We should be able to say that, you know.
Let them put the waiver in for it, and then let us decide whether or not to give them the waiver
Yep.
for it.
Yep.
Instead of mandating something that's not in the bylaw.
Right.
And
I mean,
having
that-
issues.
And that, sorry.
Absolutely
And that,
agree. You know, I mean, like the one we just talked about in the traffic management plan, I mean, that's probably one of the worst places in town to try and access.
Oh, it is.
You know,
I know that's something.
especially for strangers.
We went over that extensively, I
Yeah,
remember.
but I mean, that, you may not need that on any other,
Right.
Piece. Like I said, no, we get the right to waive it, and
Yeah.
that's it.
I was just asking if we have to, do we have to be specific on a berm, or specific on a certain fence type, or can we just put something in there that says that the board will, on a site-by-site basis, we can change the fence type?
Again, it's easier to do what you want and then entertain relief afterwards.
I don't
It
think
really
we can
is.
go back to them, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's not in the bylaw, for us to say, you know, I don't know if we can or not, but say, no, there's too many houses, I want a 6-foot berm there. Can we do that without them giving us a bunch of pushback and legal problems? Because it's not in the bylaw?
Yeah.
Now we're making things up as we go kind of thing? If it's in here,
Yeah.
then they can say, well, you know, the houses are 500 feet away, okay, we'll waive that.
I'm just saying, like, we don't have to say whatever, it's gonna be this type of fence that you have to use everywhere.
No,
No,
gonna-
you
yeah.
don't have to.
The
And-
berm thing is.
The berm thing is
Yeah.
one thing that we could say it has
Yes.
to be on every site.
Yeah, just
That-
And if you choose to put greenery or put a fence up,
That's
I think-
something that we can go
Yeah.
site by
Yeah.
site, we
Site by
can
site.
decide that.
That would work good, a 15-foot high berm unless you've got an alternate proposal that.
15 foot high berm, okay.
the fence
All right.
type,
Of course, then you have to explain to the neighbors why you're giving them relief.
yeah.
You know, I mean, just, it's the same thing as what happened tonight and what happens again and again.
Mhm.
Just, it has to be somewhat reasonable because the neighbors don't want anything to happen next to them. And, yeah. You know, it requires a little thought
Yeah.
as to the minimum screening required. You know, and some of it has to do with what the adjacent topography is. You know, if you're up high and you're looking down, even that 15-foot high berm might not do any
Right,
good.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, yeah. I don't have an answer, just more questions, because it just gets so different between sites. There's no, quote, the standard cookie cutter
No.
site
Yeah.
that anything happens on.
Right.
But
Just one thing I want to clarify, when, my comment about preferred fence types was specifically about the security fence.
Chain link.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was my
So they don't end
suggestion.
up with that deer fence with the 6.
Yes, because that I feel like is not
About that
secure.
We talked about that we talked about that last time.
Yeah, so I just wanna make
I think
sure
we're all on the
that
same
was-
page
Yeah.
with that one.
So that's
Agreed.
okay with making that change
Yes.
about the fences. And then just to clarify, the crash data, so would you like to leave that in and then have applicants waive? I know that was mentioned, so I just wanna make sure.
Leave
that-
it in and let them
Leave
waive
it
it.
in. Okay.
And the chain link fence, I'm not sure if we should specify a gauge, because you can get that stuff where it's quite thin versus some heavier gauge stuff. I'm not sure if that's,
I don't know, I mean, if somebody breaks in and
I
damages
don't know if
it.
you get really a lot of pushback on that. I mean, if you're investing millions of dollars into this, I don't think you're gonna wanna
Yeah.
put a cheap fence up. If you wanna keep people out, I think you're gonna probably.
Did
Yeah.
did it on Robinson Road.
to be
What's that?
sturdy
They put the-
and,
They put the
I
deer
know.
fence up with the big, because we didn't have it specified, so. And that was.
And if somebody breaks in and smashes their panels, that's their problem. They gotta upgrade the panels and they gotta fix the fence. I mean, it doesn't hurt the town at all if there's somebody that can get through their cheap fence. If somebody can get through their cheap fence, it's their problem, because now they have to fix their own damage. It's nothing to do with us. It's, if they wanna be cheap about it, it's their problem, in my opinion. And then I think that was all I found that I wanted to add or change. Yeah. Anybody else?
I just, I'm sorry, go ahead,
Okay.
Steve. Go
No, I
ahead.
only
got one minor thing, so go ahead.
Shoot.
It wasn't about this, it was, as I was reading through here, there was, another recommendation about creating an overlay district for solar, basically, where it's permissible and where it would not be suitable to put in somebody's backyard, because right about now, it can go anywhere.
I don't think we can.
I don't think we can say you can't put it in.
I don't, the way I read that, it was like a recommendation, basically, of where you can put them.
So if you're telling, so if somebody has a piece of property big enough in the village, not that there is, but let's just say there was, if there's a piece of property big enough right here in the village district, we would have the right to tell him what he could and couldn't do on his property?
It's because we still have the right for public safety, public health, okay, is one of the few things that we've got some sort of regulation
I mean,
over.
people have got panels on their roofs all over town.
I
Yeah,
I know what you're saying, it's there, it's just if we choose to, rather than having in a center of town, they're further north or wherever we may want to put them. I'm just, it's a.
I would hate to be, I mean, I understand that different people have different opinion on solar panels. I totally agree. Some people are for them, some people are against them, some people like them, some people don't. I totally understand that. I try not to infringe on somebody's private property and that they've been paying taxes on, and whether they, just like if they have enough property to build 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 houses, well, if you meet the bylaw, you can do it. And if you got enough property to put in a small solar farm and you're reaping the benefits to be able to rent it for 20 years, lease it for 20 years, and then turn around and sell it 20 years later, I don't know. Again, everybody's got their personal opinion. I don't like to push my opinion on them. If they meet the bylaw and the standards of the town and the state, I don't think I'm gonna be the one to tell them they can't make money or do what they wanna do to feed their families or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm interested in keeping the town out of court or even hiring lawyers if they have to. I mean, the Attorney General's been pretty clear that it's allowed in all districts, and if you set up something to prevent it from happening, they may decide that your bylaw is not in line with state requirements. I'm not interested in getting in one of those fights.
No.
They're expensive and long and.
It would either go through or it wouldn't, basically, when the new bylaw is submitted, they're either gonna tell you, this is unacceptable or it's not, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's already an opinion out there that, and actually one of our proponents reminded us of it, that you can use the special permit to condition the approval of a solar array, but you can't use it to deny someone the ability to, the way I read it, to put it in. So if it's a big enough array and there's enough money to go to court and enough desire to go to court and you deny it, you will go to court. And that's even if it's just, we don't have this problem so much in this town at this point, but like in places like Martha's Vineyard, I mean, you could be next to somebody who's on the Forbes 400 list, and if he decides he wants to take you to court because you've issued a permit that you shouldn't have, you'll go.
Great. All right, so anything else anybody want to bring up?
I just had one thing.
Yes, please.
But I think I actually answered it, this one here. You're just saying take this line out.
Yeah, but
Because
you
it
can,
basically says the same thing
it does.
in that line and then that line.
Correct, but I mean, I know we said, or we've heard comments about keeping the repetitiveness, so I can leave that in.
And if it's repetitive in the same paragraph, then.
It's literally, it says, if applicant is not owner, name, address, and certificate of agency. If applicant is not owner, and name, address, and seal of person preparing site plan. So to me, that sounds like it's all the same.
Yeah, if it's repetitive in the same paragraph or in the same sentence, then
Okay.
yeah, you can get rid of that. It's
Okay.
when it's in one page, one part of the bylaw and then the other one, and they, 2 pages later or whatever. As long as it's all stating the same thing, I'd say keep the
page is that
repetitiveness.
That is, it's your number BA11.
All
I
right.
have my hard copy.
So I think we've kind of nailed down the solar bylaw. Victoria will make the changes.
I'll find it.
And then we're gonna start scheduling public hearings for anybody in the public that wants to come in and discuss. And I think we're good as far as the solar bylaw is concerned.
Can I say one more thing, actually?
Please,
Just because I know it came up last time, sorry, I know it's getting late.
it's okay.
We are officially the planning board. We
Okay.
received confirmation. Yes, so that's one of the changes I will make for.
We're not the
consistency.
commission?
No.
Okay, we're the board. I noticed that on things. I read what you put up here when I opened the meeting. We are the Acushnet Planning Board meeting. Gotcha. Good to have
Okay.
clarification. All right, let's move on to, so that's the biggest one because that's on the Springtown meeting. So I think we got that nailed down. Victoria will make some changes.
Yeah.
We'll have some public hearings that I think we already started advertising. No.
Correct, today.
Yeah, we
Today
actually
started
advertising for the public hearing. And then anybody out there has any comments, questions, concerns, come to the public hearing and we'll discuss. All right, next is paper streets. So I'm actually gonna put the next two together because I think they almost go together. So there's a discussion on paper street policy, a discussion on the A&R, approval not required guidance document. So the approval not required document is
Yeah, and
in our system already.
For one thing, I just put that together to get the discussion going,
Yeah.
that guidance. And also, in terms of, I really do feel badly about people getting direction from,
I do too.
and I mean, I can remember one time when I was working for the big developer and I had some questions, and in the meantime, or before me, was somebody that came in asking for, what they had to do to get a sewer connection permit. And at that point, And it's relatively straightforward, or should be relatively straightforward. At that point, I mean, I had gotten a sewer connection permit approved for a 445 room hotel. I knew the process. I may not know it now as well as I knew it then, but and the things that clerk told that person, I had to really zip my mouth shut. It was some of the worst advice I could ever imagine. And you've got people coming in that typically I would think to the building department that say, I want to put a house here. What do I have to do? And if it requires the board to sign a plan, my recommendation at this point is that we put together at least a handout. We don't have to change any existing laws or anything like that, but just do a handout that lays out the considerations that the board should take in to sign or not sign the plan. That way they're not going to get told one thing by the building inspector, another thing by conservation, another thing by the clerk, blah, 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 blah. And
I agree, and
that's the only reason for that, and it was to get the discussion
and
going.
this is in our bylaw now.
Well, most of that is out of the approval not required manual put out by the state. That's what most of that encompasses. Because there are things that have modified the planning board's responsibilities relative to certain issues. One of them is what constitutes frontage. That has been the subject of countless lawsuits across the state, and that was the reason the state came out with that approval not required manual, is to clarify some of those things. In 1989, and it bothered me when I saw the year and how far back that was, land use manager devoted 5 major articles to things that the board should look at when they sign an approval not required plan. There are other sections relative to grandfathering. Same thing. There's a court history. It's not simple and straightforward. But just to have something to drop off at the building inspector's office and say, if somebody comes to us for an approval not required, these are some of the things that we are looking for.
Okay.
No,
and I agree with you. Give us a quick rundown of what you might want to show us on your plan there as far as paper streets are concerned.
I will, and I went over briefly with Victoria some of the areas in town, and there are several, and it does amount to a significant amount of acreage where we have these paper streets that were created in the early 1900s that really never got built out. So it's not just isolated to this piece that I'm going to show you, but many areas.
No,
in
there's
town.
lots of them.
Yeah. And I mean, the plan that you guys just signed, if you look at some of it, you're going to see all these streets. And even though somebody may own all of this right now, they could ask us for an A&R plan to split it up. They could ask us for a determination of adequate access up Ash Street to get to a piece back here. As land values increase, I expect all of these issues in all of the different sections of town, whether it's the south end where it's highly developed and you've got water and sewer, or up on the north end, in the case of one of these subdivisions that doesn't even have clear legal access to the subdivision itself. Forget about the roads in the subdivision. I almost guarantee you, and I haven't looked at the plan, but if you go up Hebert Road, there's a number of old, smaller houses there. There may be the potential, because of all these paper streets that are on record, for more houses to
Okay.
be put. So I think, and the way I understand approval not required plans, unless you say it's not a building lot, when the board signs the plan, there is an assumption of adequate access to the lot.
Okay, so I actually had a discussion with Victoria regarding this earlier today. So, not long ago, we had somebody come in we had somebody come in and, let me make another example. So let's just say this person right here, okay? This person comes in, let's just say hypothetically, it's just a regular 150 feet, 60,000 square feet, it's a lot, it's a house lot.
Yep.
Hypothetically, okay?
Or it's a grandfathered lot bounded by.
Or a
which-
grandfathered
so it
lot
doesn't
that
even
was
have to be-
before subdivision control laws, and it passed back then, and it's still grandfathered in. But there's no access to this lot. But this guy owns all of these, or whatever, this person wants to sell this lot that technically has the size,
Okay.
Yep.
but there's no road.
Okay.
Again, it's a paper street.
Yep.
You've got no access. But technically, if this road were to be constructed, that house could take frontage off of that road, and it has the requirements to be a buildable lot. So I think if something like this comes in front of us, because there are people that might want to sell this, but they don't want to build the road. Let somebody else, the person who buys that, build the road. I think, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, if somebody comes in and proves to us that this is a buildable lot, if this road was constructed, we could say not a buildable lot or approved buildable lot only once road is constructed.
The clearest way is to do it, and you know, I've seen the same thing happen in a number of places in town over the last few years. Typically, the guy that's doing it wants to just put like a little note on his list of notes.
Right.
And so a realtor gets the plan and sells somebody, sure, you can put a lot there.
Right.
And then they find out later on that they can't.
Correct.
And now I feel bad for them because they've been hoodwinked.
Correct.
If it doesn't have a road that runs continuously from Lake Street all the way up to here, I don't think there's adequate access, and it should say not a building lot, period. Even though that there's, and that way.
But you can't put that, so just so this person has the ability to sell this lot, there couldn't be something on the note saying, I don't know.
You could put a note on.
I'm reaching, I know I'm reaching, but I'm
Not a
just,
building lot until roadway is constructed, you know,
Yeah.
in conformance with planning board's requirements.
right, or approved by planning board as buildable lot only after access has been determined, the road has been built, something of that nature. I'm just looking at somebody owning property, wanting to sell that property, and the buyer having some kind of assurances that once they buy the property, they'll be responsible to put the road in, but at least they have assurances that the guy that they bought it off of has been in front of us. We said, yeah, once the road's in, we'll approve the lot, you know? At least that, one, the seller has some kind of assurances that we're not gonna back out and say, nope, you sold it, but now we're not gonna give you the okay to build. You know, at least it came in front of us. It meets all requirements for a A&R buildable lot, except for access or the road. I feel we should be able to say, yes, we will approve that only after the road has been put in.
And that's kind of the gist of what the two roadway bylaws that Victoria gave us. The one, I forget the
Yeah,
towns.
here you go, they're right here, I printed them all.
There's the short one, there's the short one.
Yeah, here's the long version.
I'm going to tell you, this particular one seems to me to be just a repeat of what's in the town subdivision rules and regulations. And they've just set up, and I'm sure this would have to be at town meeting, that they gave they gave the authority to the East Long Meadow Board of Public Works to control how the street is constructed that provides access to the property. I don't know that that's really necessary or even desirable. We've already got some subdivision rules and regulations in place that we can give waivers to, and that we have given waivers to, that sets up the process. That leads me to the short version, something for simple minds to read. But basically, it's planning board guidelines. This is not mine. This is planning board guidelines for construction of paper streets. Something like this, along with that, at least gives the board, or it gives people more warning, even just to go hire an engineer to do the plans for some of these things that people come in with. It's expensive.
Oh,
And, you know, if you're gonna have to put up, you know, for between wetlands determinations and all these other things, you could be spending 5 to 10 grand for a plan, an A&R plan for the planning board to sign. I think that the person that wants to do that should have some idea of what the planning board is going to be looking at for access. That's the whole reason for that. And I just pulled this out because, you know,
there's a lot of paper roads out there.
They're all over the place. And to be quite, to be very straightforward about it, I mean, the reason to carve this up is I don't need all that land to put a house on and enjoy myself. This is like a big fence across the back of the mobile home park, a buffer zone. Because and I could do this today. I could come in and say, okay, I want to improve Wood Road from here to here and get frontage to put more houses back there. Mm-hmm. Believe me, that's the last thing in the world I want to do for a number of reasons. Mostly because, you know, the guy that buys the house next to the airport runway, you know, and he bought it because, or she, they bought it because it was cheap. Then they lived there for a year, and now they're sick of listening to the planes. Well, they are on the town officials constantly to not extend the runway, you know, to have them put in some noise prevention, you know, I mean, don't need that.
For the park, yeah.
I mean, the place has meant an income for my parents that allowed me to go to WPI and get an engineering degree there. And now I'm utilizing it, and it's mostly people's parents and grandparents that live here. It provides a continuing income. And in this case, I'm you know, I don't know what's going to happen after I pass, but anybody would be crazy to have a bunch of houses go in here. And
there's a lot of crazy people.
Yeah,
out there.
it's so. Anyway,
so I'm in agreement, and I think we should have something. We could do the easiest thing in the world, and you guys can obviously look this over and read it again. But we can easily just change the name, you know, and put Acushnet on here, adopt this 3-page bylaw, add this to it, and make it our own. I mean, it's something as simple as that. As long as we have something, like Rick says, when somebody comes in and says, hey, I got land on a paper street, what do I do? Here you go. This is what we're looking for. And then obviously there are waivers and there's gray areas and there's all other things. But at least it's something that we don't have to create. Somebody else has already created it. And we can just adopt what they did, attach the town of Acushnet planning board subdivision, what we require which is mostly on this page. And I looked at this, I read this over. This is very similar to like a Form C subdivision creating of a road. is what this is. This is just telling people that this is how wide we want the road. We want to turn around in the road. If the road has sidewalks, you're going to continue in sidewalks. If it doesn't, you don't have to. You can do Cape Cod berms. It's got curbing, utilities, blah, blah, blah. It's basically very similar to what we already have as a Form C subdivision rules and regs. But it's only 3 pages. People come in and what do? I got land, I have it on a paper road, and this is what we give them and say, there you go. And then come back in front of us and they might say, hey, wait a minute, can I ask for a waiver? There's no sidewalks on the previous street. Do I need sidewalks? Well, no, you can ask for a waiver. If there's no sidewalks, we'll let that slide. Or, hey, it's a dead end, but you can't possibly build, do I need to do a turnaround? Well, there's different waivers for different things. But I think Rick is right, and the easiest way is to just adopt
Do
this.
something like that.
And just
Yeah.
put our name on it and say thank you very much and give it to them. Something that simple.
The-
At least there'll be something on paper of what we are kind of going by.
And keep in mind, if
I
somebody.
don't think it actually has to be a bylaw. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I don't think it has to be a bylaw, does it?
No, not at all.
No,
No.
that's what I'm getting at.
And-
We keep calling it a bylaw.
Sorry, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a bylaw. It's just an amendment to.
At the
Depends
very
how you
least,
want to do it.
you should be able to do something similar to that with an amendment to the existing subdivision rules and
Correct.
regulations,
Which-
which requires a hearing
Correct.
and then a filing with the change with, I think, Land Court and
Registry of
the Bristol County
Yep.
Registry of Deeds.
Registry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be the easiest way to go about it. It doesn't have to go in front of town.
I will say, the other reason for the guidance is there are some parts that aren't clear in terms of signing or not signing plans. And one of the classic cases, and it's still cited out in Nantucket, there was a town road down here. And there were a bunch of pork chop lots that were created with frontage on the town road. But you could not build a driveway because the houses were up here and the road was down here. You could not build a driveway within your property to get up to the building portion of the house. Even though it had frontage and it had area, the courts found that they did not have practical access to the building portion of the lot, and the planning board was not required to sign that Form A plan.
Okay, now let me ask you another thing.
And that's
Regarding that same idea, okay?
Yep.
Let's say somebody's got a piece of property, meets, size, setbacks, everything, but whether it's the height, whether it's a swamp, regardless of what it is, what if the neighbor in the back wants to give them an easement to get to their property?
The courts have said that the planning board does not have to sign the Form A plan in that case also. On wetlands, there are two cases that are still cited to this day. One of them dealt with basically a small fill to get to the property, to get to the building portion of the property. In that case, the court said the planning board was obligated to sign the plan because it was obviously they didn't say that in the decision, but the court determined that it still was feasible to access the building portion of the lot across the wetlands. There's a second case relative to wetlands that's entirely the opposite. The guy had the frontage and he did have access to the building portion of the lot from another part of town. The court said, no, you had to have access to the building portion of the lot from the street where the frontage was claimed. And in that particular case, the court, it would have required a bridge, not just two little wooden sections like we just saw for this one, but a half-mile long bridge.
Yeah,
In that case, the court said the planning board did not have to sign the plan, even though he had access from another portion of the town. It's
I understand.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
if
not-
that came in front of us, it was in front of me, somebody had a piece of property and their neighbor was willing to give them a deeded, right of way through their property to access their property.
It would be the board's discretion, but if Bill Gates was next door and didn't want you to
Oh,
build
he
on
would-
that
yeah,
lot,
he'd pay
he would
them.
take you to court and the
And
town
he'd
would, he would win, the town would lose.
Well, he wouldn't take the,
Yeah, oh,
well, he
yeah.
would take
Yeah,
us,
take
'cause
the
we're
town
the
to
ones
court
that
for signing the
voted.
Form A
Right,
plan.
Right,
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
okay,
getting late.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
I'm
Past my
sorry.
bedtime, I hate to say it.
It's not,
What are we thinking about, this, my idea of just kind of putting something down, kind of adopting this, you guys can, Victoria can send it back out to you guys, read it through.
Yep.
But in a nutshell, it basically is just telling people how to build a road.
at least it would give some warning to the person.
And
that
attaching,
requires.
attaching this and just kind of putting something in our bylaw that says this is what we,
Regulations, sorry.
thank you. Thank you. Of what we are looking for.
And I'm for anything that tells people up front, what we're looking for, so we don't have, when somebody wants to do that house, it's always just the next one. And you want to build a 12-foot wide gravel driveway to your house because that's the cheapest thing to do. You don't want to have to put in pavement.
No, and again, that
And
comes up to the
that's where the
discretion.
consideration comes in. Is there potential to extend it out further? What we did years ago is we told somebody they had to build the road up to the property, and I think it was like another 50 feet of pavement, like on some of these old lots back here. That way, they only had to build that much, but they did have to pave it up to their lot. The next guy could then say he'll pave that and then 50 feet on his lot. And that's where we got most of those requests for, and that's how we dealt with it back then. And I think and you would look at how the street was built in the rest of the subdivision,
And then kind of
and then
duplicate
just,
that.
well, let's extend it. Because the person that has the lot now, or those people that have houses there now, they had to pay for the street in front of their house,
Yeah.
through the sale of their property.
Okay, just
I'm
to
sorry.
continue this along, no, it's okay. A lot of great information there, Rick. I appreciate it. So Victoria will send that back out to everybody. You read it. We'll kind of discuss it again briefly next time, just so we can kind of put that one to bed as well.
Okay.
Other topics is done. Town planner update?
Yes, I'll be super quick, guys. I know we've had a long night. Okay, so there's a couple things I just wanted to bring to your attention tonight. So the first one is the Municipal ADA Improvement Grant Program. So what this is, it's funding that supports what's called a self-evaluation and transition plan, which evaluates all of our town-owned properties and recreational areas for accessibility under the ADA, which is the American with Disabilities Act, which is required under the administrative requirements of Title II of the ADA. This plan would also develop mitigations actions to improve accessibility, like signage, renovating bathrooms, that sort of thing, to meet ADA. There's some eligibility requirements, which are to be a part of the community compact cabinet, which we are a part of and have utilized in the past. Have an ADA coordinator, which we do have, it's our building commissioner, and have a notice of non-discrimination posted and ADA grievance procedure, which I'm checking to see if we have those. If we don't have those, it would be my recommendation to this board to request that the selectmen put those in place. I think in general, those are good to have aside from the grant program. The estimated cost of this project is around $30,000 to $35,000, and that's what the grant request will be for. There's no, I would not be anticipating requesting or having a match for this, so no town funds will be used. I do know our fire chief we did speak about this together, and he did offer his support and also provided a letter of support for the town pursuing this. Applications are due in the middle of June, and awards would be made in the fall. So that was sort of a quick rundown. Are there any questions about that program?
Nope. I said go for it, and just keep it, obviously dig deep to make sure there's no matching and no, like you said,
Just
that
no
the town doesn't pay anything, but if we can apply and they give us money for it,
Okay,
go for it.
awesome. May I request a motion to recommend we apply to the select board, because I believe we need their approval to apply for
You
it.
do.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to request the selectmen review the grant and recommend it.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion? Can I get
I'll
a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Lastly, I just wanted to mention a different program that the town could take advantage of. It's called the Community Technical Assistance Program. That is offered by CERPED, our regional planning agency, for a variety of transportation issues. So this had come up at my last joint transportation planning group meeting. It's a monthly meeting of the region. It had come up that they have this opportunity, and something I thought of is this intersection outside Town Hall with South Main Street. I believe it's Crompton Street. I know that has a lot of accidents and stuff like that, so it might be worth doing some sort of safety analysis. And CERPED, at no cost to the town, can provide what's called a technical memorandum, and they will provide an overview of any issues and any recommendations they have, or next steps the town should take to address those, any deficiencies. Any questions on that?
We gotta make a motion for that one.
Yes, please.
Is that just specific for like one intersection, or will they do it for the town?
No, so this program that's specific to one issue, there's a program I had mentioned previously called Complete Streets. I don't know if you remember that a few months ago.
Mhm.
That one would be townwide.
Okay.
So that's also a good program for the town to participate in the future.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, how do we say it?
Yeah, to refer to recommend.
Recommend Community Technical Assistance Program to the Board of Selectmen, is that how we have to?
Yeah.
I got a motion. I got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, guys.
It's traffic light or land takings to do a traffic circle. I mean, those are the only realistic improvements
You
that you
think
could
so?
do there at that intersection.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't wanna like.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm just telling, but I mean,
The
in terms of the mechanisms that are available to improve traffic safety there, those are the two things that,
You can't really get a
That-
traffic,
that-
can't get a traffic circle.
yeah, I mean, you would do
Yeah.
traffic takings for a traffic circle, which would be an incredibly difficult thing to
Yeah.
do. Or, you gotta put lights in.
I go through an intersection every day, so
I-
sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes it can be tough.
Yep.
Okay, nothing, no other business, nothing's come in the last 48 hours except this big packet that you all got that we'll read through for GF. Our next meeting is Thursday, April 17th, right here in this room. Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
Let's take a
Okay.
motion.
Motion to close, just
Second.
regular meeting.
We got a motion, I got a second, all in favor? Aye.